Denver's mayor says he is deeply committed to transparency, but open records advocates say deleting conversations between public officials violates the spirit of Colorado's Open Records Act. We take you behind the story with investigator Brian Moss tracking down Denver's mayor.
Will you continue to auto-delete stuff?
This was an interview the mayor's office said could not happen.
How many of these signal groups does the mayor's office have that have been auto-deleting messages?
I can tell you what Denver does.
As Denver Mayor Mike Johnson prepared for this appearance before Congress, we learned he was communicating with 14 of his staff members in a group chat on the encrypted app Signal with his group called Strike Force. And the group's conversations about Denver's migrant issues were being automatically deleted.
It seems like a pretty plain, straightforward, deliberate effort to evade transparency.
Since we first reported that in March, we've repeatedly asked to interview the mayor. As late as Wednesday morning, his spokesperson said, "We won't be able to do an interview this week."
How do you feel about transparency today?
We feel great. We're equally committed to it. We have been.
So we showed up at this event on Wednesday anyway, seeking answers about the mayor's office deleting its internal conversations about immigration.
Every communication channel we have is open to the same public request for records. So whether we use text messages, WhatsApp, carrier pigeon, it does not matter. Every single system of communication we have is open to public records search, and so entirely transparent, always has been, will stay that way.
But we can't do a public record search if messages are auto-deleted, and you have signal groups that are doing that.
Yeah, so we abide by the city policy on deletion for any one of the networks we use. Those networks are all the same.
We can't core messages that don't exist anymore because they were deleted.
At the same time, we've also learned of another group within the mayor's office that's also been auto-deleting their messages and conversations, apparently for a little over a year. The mayor's office has been running another signal group called Media Monitoring, sharing news stories of interest to the mayor's office in real time. And like Strikeforce, Jordan Fuja, the mayor's spokesperson, admits Media Monitoring also auto-deleted messages between members. She said the signal group started their encrypted communications in the fall of 2023 and only stopped auto-deleting their messages in January of this year. Through an Open Records Act request, we obtained this information showing Fuja was the administrator of the group.
You might go down as one of the least transparent public officials in the history of the state.
All this intentional deletion of messages has given fuel to critics like Aurora Mayor Mike Kaufman.
This is an administration that's not just only not transparent, but is dedicated to not being transparent.
Even the city of Aurora says it had to threaten to sue the city of Denver to get open records they asked for about migrants, which Aurora requested under Colorado's open records law and paid more than $6,000 for. Johnston's office says it provided Aurora with more than 2,000 records on the migrant crisis in accordance with open records laws. And one thing Johnston and Kaufman might agree on?
When elected officials go out of their way not to be transparent, it undermines the public trust.
Anyone you ask me for, I give to you. That's all I can tell you.
I'm Brian Moss, covering Colorado First.
And Brian joins me now as we talk a little bit more about this. So, Brian, the mayor's people kept saying that he was busy. So why did you decide to search him out like this?
Yeah, a little bit of an unusual tactic, doing what we call an unscheduled interview like that. But we'd been clearly getting brushed off by the mayor's office for quite some time. We had asked for interviews with him on multiple occasions. Most of the time, they just ignored those requests. One time they said he just wasn't available. It was really clear what was going on. We were not going to get any time with the mayor. So we just made it happen because in this kind of a situation, you need to hold people accountable and you need to hear from them rather than having people dodge you. So that's why we took this unusual tactic of approaching the mayor after a public event.
Mayor Johnston says he wants to be transparent, but the messaging using Signal seems to say otherwise, don't you think?
Well, there was a lot of sort of, I guess you'd say, word salad there of him saying, oh, we're the most transparent. You can get any public record from us you want. Well, you can get any public record that hasn't been deleted. The point is you can't get public records that are automatically deleted. And remember, it wasn't just this Strikeforce migrant group that was deleting those messages. It was a second group also that for nearly a year, a media monitoring group within his office, they had also been deleting their messages. So on one hand, he says, we're really transparent, you can get any open records. But what we should add is you can get any open records except for the ones that they've intentionally deleted so quickly so nobody can see them.
Yeah. A spokesperson for Johnston says the Signal messaging was actually prompted by President Trump. Do we know how?
Yeah, there was a lot of pressure, you might remember, particularly back in the fall, about how Denver handled the whole immigrant influx that we saw. And President Trump obviously made that a huge deal in his campaign. And then an arm of the Trump machine called America First Legal, a right-wing conservative legal organization, they filed their own public records and demanded all of these records from the Johnson administration. So there was a lot of heat. And that's what the Johnson administration says brought them to the point where they went to Signal and were deleting those conversations.
Brian, really good information. And of course, great reporting as always. Thanks so much for sharing all of that with us and with our viewers. And you can find more on this story and more of Brian's investigative work at cbscolorado.com.